we're going to look at an easy way to draw an elliptical type shape for a head casing. So this would be our opening. This would be one leg of trim, the other leg of trim, and we're going to draw two circles so that they meet in the middle. You got one circle and a second circle. But we don't need the whole circle for this. We need 60 degrees of the circle. We don't need to know what 60 degrees is. It's built, the radius of the circle is also 6 times the circumference. But all we need to do is line up the two tick marks. So put one there, and where these two cross, that's it. We don't need to calculate any distances. We'll do the same thing on the other side. And we'll draw that in. Whoops, I moved slightly. These are the radial lines, but more importantly, they're the lines at which we're going to miter or cut the piece. So we'll come off of here. It's one line. To make this section of the curve, all we're going to do is make this 60 degrees larger. Just a bigger version of it goes here. And to do that, we're going to set our trammel to the distance of the opening. So the only thing we have to do is to take, set one point on that hash mark where it crosses, take the other one to this one, and find out where the tick marks line up. Turn it around and complete the arch. And that's it. That's the inside of the casing. Since these are swing lines, all we have to do is increase the distance so that it meets the outside of our casing. And that's where I had moved slightly. And do the same thing on here. So we'll come up to that line there. So here's the elliptical head casing. When you go to make it, all you need is this pivot point and this pivot point. And now if this were actually a router instead of a pen, you would route that section. There is a couple of concerns though. We want to have as little short grain showing as we can. So when we decide what the orientation of the piece is, we want to have as much of the grain this way. We want as very little of, since it's curved, very little short grain showing. So we're going to look at where can we find the most long grain. Okay, so typically if you go point to point, that's a good indicator. That works here. So now we're going to draw the size of the piece of material we would use to produce this. We're going to make it a little bit bigger so that you're not trying to start the cut with the router right on the finished piece. We want to dive into it a little ahead of time. And we want to make it a little bit bigger over here as well. We're going to screw this thing right to the plywood, and we don't want to run a router bit into it. So when we actually do this piece, we're going to be drawing this right on a piece of plywood. We're going to draw in our cut line here, we're going to draw in our cut line there, And then, well, first we're going to screw the thing down so it doesn't move around on us. But after we've done that, we'll fix it to it. And then once you have swung the router on the inside, cut it, swung the router on the outside, assuming this is square stock, it's Craftsman style, then you can take it over to the chop saw and cut it on these two lines, which will be drawn in. On the top piece, if we make it out of one piece, we got, no matter what we do, we've got a lot of short grain showing. This is the best we can get, and that's not terribly good. So we're going to look to split this into two sections. By so doing, now we can capture a lot more long grain. And I'll only draw in the one side, you get the idea. A little extra room again. So it's the same thing. Screw it down, route it out. Draw in your lines before you route it, and then cut it. If this were going to be profiled, I would make in two sections. If it were flat casing, I would be inclined to take the two sections, miter them along this line, join them together with dominoes, pocket screws, splines, whatever, you know, it's your favorite choice, and then route it as one piece. That way you're not going to end up with a kink here where you join the two of them. But it probably isn't going to work real well if this has a lot of profile to it, because there's nothing left to join. But this is what may be the easiest approach to remember, in that you just simply draw, you find out what it is, draw two circles. As long as the circles touch, you've got it. The look of it is built into it. The downside of this is that you can't predetermine what this point is. So you have to make the piece and then move it up and down to fill the opening. And the same thing here. It's just a third circle, goes like so. 60 degrees of an arc, that's used a lot in different approaches. Molding planes cut 60 degrees of an arc. You'll see this come up a lot in some of the older texts. But if you just follow this two circle approach, and then the same thing here, whatever this distance is, swing it down, complete the curve. It's a pretty straightforward and easy way of doing it.